after lunch. I know personally I'd rather go to sleep than listen to some silly Danish economist. I think it's very courageous of the organizers to let me speak first, because my boss normally introduces me as someone who has predicted 5 of the last 2 crises. So a combination of too much food and depression is never good, not even in Slovakia, I'm sure. So let me start by saying that I am the most optimistic I've been in 30 years in business. I have never seen better opportunities than right now. But the reason why is it can't get any worse. And the reason it can't get any worse is that we have the least amount of market forces working. We have bigger governments than ever before. When you think you are trading a free market in stocks or in fixed income, you sometimes, I'm sure, voluntarily ignore the fact that there isn't what is called a price discovery. It is not the market that sets the price by which you buy a stock or sell a bond. It is the central banks. You have all become drug addicts. You all live off the quantitative easing, the monetary experimental policies. And that itself, of course, is sad. If it wasn't for the fact that we all accept it. And let me say that, and I'm saying this with a smile, I hope you understand, that as a generation, you are the most boring, the most homogeneous generation ever. You are what I call the entitlement generation. You're the only generation in this country, but across the globe, the only generation who gets bestowed on them more and more entitlements every year. So you are always told that things will improve. In 6 months, things will be better. If you cannot succeed in your business, the government will come and help you. And if the government cannot help you, the EU will come and help you. And forget about Greece. Greece is only a minor issue. But you do know, as well as I do, meanwhile, we are getting this rhetoric narrative being told to us. Unemployment continues to go up in the world. The debt to GDP continues to increase. Domestically in Slovakia, you still have been, despite 10% growth for a number of years, you still lack investment in the eastern part of your country. You have rising unemployment rates. You have a government which, out of sheer stupidity, in my opinion, decided to take away a beautiful flat tax to replace it by something else. You have a government right now who's trying to take away all the initiatives of the small and medium-sized enterprises. So I've done this economic theory, which I call the Bermuda Triangle of economics. I do expect to get the Nobel Prize, because if Krugman can get a Nobel Prize for spending more money as a policy for everything, then I am more entitled than he is to a Nobel Prize. But let me take you through my entitlement title. See if I can use this forward. And here it is. You have one angle, which is high stock market valuations, the drug addicts. Then you have record high unemployment, and you have no growth and no productivity. So what keeps this in place is how boring you are, or in another word, entitlements. Entitlement is the reason why, and it's a totally rational experiment we're seeing. But think about it, if more than 50% of a population, like in France, like in Denmark, in a number of places, live from social transfers and help from the government, they are totally rational to want to keep status quo, right? Although, as a society, it is totally irrational. So you're creating a political setup, an economic setup, where keeping status quo in place is rational, individually irrational as a society. That is the reason why you cannot reconcile the need for change, to have a focus on unemployment, and most importantly, to work on the supply side of the economy. So as I have limited time, I give you my investment conclusions, but also the very simple solution to this issue. I'll tell you, I have advised a lot of politicians. I've been invited into a lot of meetings, but I've never been invited back twice. So either they are wrong, or I'm wrong, and I don't like my message. But despite this, I give you my advice. So let me say, in every single presentation, there's one slide you need to remember. And the one you need to remember in this presentation is here. So let's think, when I'm going to tell you what I'm telling you now, think about Slovakia as a country. You use about 100% of your political capital, 100% of your foreign department, your Minister of Finance is focused on getting big businesses to come to Czechoslovakia and do business here, right? Think about Kia, think about Peugeot, think about Volkswagen. And that seems very applaudable. There's just one problem with it. Big businesses does not create jobs. Actually, even the EU have figured this out. And as it says up here, 85% of all jobs created in the EU since 2000 is from SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. 67% of all employment in Europe is in SMEs. So the conclusion has to be that if you want to create jobs, if you want to reduce the unemployment rate without having to increase your austerity, the only thing you need to do is to create less bureaucratic hurdles for small and medium-sized enterprises. You want to ask the businesses, how do we get you to do more business, to hire more people? Because SMEs, you have to realize, they work harder, they work cheaper, they work longer, and they have, what is most important, a much higher risk appetite. Because the only way you will survive as a small business is if you are willing to invest yourself and your business into a more innovative way, more productive way of doing things, because otherwise, of course, you become obsolete and you disappear by the wayside. So if you take nothing else home today, understand that 80% of the economy is SMEs. They get, listen, less than 5% of all credit and less than 1% of all political capital. So the 20% left, which is the listed companies, the big banks, the ones who can afford lobbyism, the ones that can afford access to corruption in some countries and vice versa, they have 95% of credit and 99% of political capital. Pretty sad, I would say. But the beauty is, the taxes are now so high, the unemployment rate is rising, the debt to GDP is unsustainable, and most interestingly, our politicians have now, together with the central banks, spent money they didn't have, printed money they didn't have collateral for, devalued their currencies in a competitive rate. So we are only left with what? The mandate for change. But you know as well as I do, and if you only look at your own history, you know how this works. The only mandate for change, the only real change that will happen in any society, but also in your own life, comes from the fact that you will change when you have to, not when you want to. So the only way we get on from here is, as I started saying in my speech, is only by failing. So I'm optimistic because we are closer to failing and having a chance to start anew than we ever been before in history. We have more regulation from the EU coming in. We have BIS 3, BIS 26. We have everything is being edged up because we are believing in a Germanic way of doing things, which is that you can save yourself to prosperity. No, you cannot. The alternative is to focus on people around you today, invest in people, invest in understanding, forget PowerPoint, forget your Facebook updates, maybe spend a little bit of time on calculating how you can make a better life, a more productive life. So I implore you, when you go home today, close your Facebook account and get involved in small and medium-sized enterprises. Make sure you are a political base that drives this. So why am I making this almost political point? Because I know today here a lot of you are libertarians. A lot of tonight to this afternoon will be about the Austrian school. But having done this job for 30 years, I've realized that there are no perfect way of doing anything. There's no black, there's no white, there's no hate, there's no love. I would actually say the one conclusion I have from being a trader for 30 years is this, and I give you this again for free. This is all free today. That mean reversion is everything. The reason I'm optimistic is from a mean reversion point of view, it cannot get any worse. So we have to improve, right? But regulation is pro-cyclical, should be anti-cyclical. The political system feels that more macro is needed. I don't know if any of you guys heard Barroso's State of the Union speech a couple of weeks ago. Do you know what his main message was? The problem with Europe is there is too little Europe. So the solution is more Europe. I think it's similar to being on drugs and being a drug addict and saying the only thing I really need is just more drugs, then I'll be, curing myself. So the point here is that what kind of investment environment does this create? It creates a lot of volatility because a lot of government will have start and go. They'll try to sell more Europe. You're being promised the European Banking Union, Euro bonds after Merkel. But again, just let's stay on Merkel. Merkel got elected. It was a great personal victory. But politically, she is weaker today than she was before because all of her gain was the loss of the FDP. The FDP, which was and has always been the kingmaker of German politics. So you lost the one negotiating power in German politics by the wayside. If that's good news, maybe I need my school money back. So where do I see the market? Where do I see things going from here? So my basis is that we need a crisis, and I think all the economic forward-looking models I have gives the following conclusions. Germany will be zero bound in growth next year. The US will go to zero growth. I know it runs contrary to everything you read on your BlackBerry, your Facebook, your Twitter and everything, but maybe that's why you should listen to me. What's happening in the US right now is that the jobs being created is not real jobs. The participation rate, i.e. the amount of people who work, is falling. So the only reason you get lower unemployment rate is that people is not seeking a job. Number two, Obamacare just got introduced the 1st of September. And there's an interesting rule in Obamacare, which is that if you work 30 hours or more, you need a full medical insurance and healthcare plan. So what do the American companies do? Hire everyone on 29 hours, right? So the whole exercise up till September 1st has been to create more jobs in terms of numbers, but poor jobs. And let me ask you this, who is the second biggest employer in the US? Walmart is number one, GE is number three. Who is the second biggest employer in the US? Kelly Services, a temp agency. A temp agency, a temporary agency where you hire short-term workers for limited time, employs 560,000 people on average in a single year. Walmart number one, a temp agency number two, GE number three, at 300,000 jobs. It just tells you about the quality. So the slowdown in the US economy will be that unemployment rate will start to rise. The housing market will tank because what we've seen in mortgage rates in the US during this tapering discussion is that mortgage rates went from 3.5% to almost 5%. I don't know about you, but it makes a huge difference whether I buy a house with the interest rate of 3.5% or 5% when I have to actually buy the house. So that impact will come in Q4. It will slow down investment. It will take away tapering. We will have more QE, not less QE. So here comes my investment conclusions, which you can tease me on next time I come to Slovakia. I think the first move will be that we need to reprice the risk of higher interest rate. It is non-existent. Think about it, the world is barely surviving with an interest rate of zero. Imagine interest rate was 3%. You can close down 90% of the world because you're all drug addicts on this inevitable, never-ending story of monetary easing. So number one, rates is not going up. The Federal Reserve last week gave you a free put option on fixed income bonds. They told you if interest rate in the US goes higher than 3%, we will do absolutely everything, including printing more money to keep interest rate down. So what has changed over the last 10 days is that relatively speaking, the equilibrium between owning bonds and equities have moved again in favor of owning fixed income. And don't forget, the major attributes from owning bonds is this: you have a free put option on the equity market, right? Not only can you get 3% interest rate in US 10-year government bonds, but also you have implied in owning fixed income a put if the equity market goes down. And I'm not actually calling the equity market down, but it's always nice to get something for free, right? That is exactly why most of the bond funds has excelled over the last 20 years, because they had this put option every time the market went down. So my call is that we will see 2.25 in US interest rates in Q4 because of this repricing. Gold will go to 15.25 because real rates in the US will be falling again despite inflation coming off. I think the dollar will be weaker because the path of least resistance for dollar will be for the emerging market to catch up again, to have the link being played out as a weaker US dollar. So in terms of trade, the currency price will have to come down in the US. I think it's likely we see 140 in the euro, or in a dollar index 79. So gold 1500 plus, euro 140. Well, what's interesting, I also think stock market will go down or go up in the short term. My target for S&P has been for the last 3 months 770, 1800. And this is based on the stupidity of the stock market, interestingly enough. Because we run what is called econometric models. We don't believe in linear integration. We think the market is cyclical, and we believe in calling leads and lags. So I give you this as something to think about. When you hear most people like me talking, you hear me saying that the stock market leads the economy, correct? It's the other way around. It cannot be, by definition anyway, other than that the economy leads the stock market. So what is happening right now, and the reason stock market goes up, despite the world is accelerating in growth, due to the EMD crisis, due to the higher rates because of the talk of tapering, because of the higher unemployment rate. What is happening is it will take the stock market, stupid as it is, 2 to 3 months to realize this. So we're getting the positive up move right now on the basis that we are repricing the risk of higher rates, positive for stock in a discounting manner. Of course, the next part being that if there is less growth, and the reason we have low inflation and low interest rate is that there isn't any volumes, there isn't any things to sell to anyone, then of course ultimately you'll see in the reporting season in Q4 and Q1 of next year that everyone is looking into the future saying we will be selling less. Maybe you noticed yesterday that Walmart was out stating that they have reduced the number of orders they place. Walmart, who constitute about 15% of all household goods in the US, are saying to the world, we are not putting in more orders anymore. So I think it's happening, but it will take 2 to 3 months. Okay, so what happens in 2014? Zero growth in the US, zero growth in Germany. What would that do to the world? It will be the best news ever. And I know it sounds almost like I'm making a joke, but it will be, because we spend the money we couldn't afford. We have printed the money we didn't have collateral for. So in 2014, the politician needs to come back into the game and decide what's important. If they take my advice on the SMEs, and the first country to take my SME advice will be the most competitive by a fair amount of years, because you know the political elite is only concerned about getting re-elected. So 2014 will be very, very bad on unemployment. It will be very bad on asset returns. So I think you have between now and Christmas to celebrate how good times are, just to smile when people say it's going to be even better in 6 months' time. But start to take money off the table as we go high in equities. Put some of your fixed income and your money into fixed income in strong Europe, like Germany, Denmark, even in Slovakian bonds. And increasingly be prepared in 2014 to have great opportunities to buy the market back. Because what I'm telling you is not like the world is going under. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying the world has never been closer to actually regenerating growth. So when I'm looking and now we're talking far into the future, but 2015 my models is saying that US will have 5% growth, but also, and this is for the gold box to talk on later, that inflation will be rising dramatically. Because we have reduced the capacity utilization of the world, because we have lost generation after generation of people That means inflation comes earlier if you have a true recovery. But a true recovery is not a Bermuda Triangle recovery with high unemployment, low investment, and high stock market. A true recovery is that when the middle class, the poorest people, the richer people are all benefiting. The real losers for this crisis over the last 5 years is us, the middle class. We have been penalized through increased austerity measures, increase in taxes, and a political inability of us to care, because it is more important for you and me to update our Facebook profile than it is to be individually involved. But I'll tell you, next year you will have the greatest opportunities to buy the markets, but also if you want to really make a huge return over the next 5 to 10 years, make sure you are part of the credit given to small and medium-sized enterprises. Be the intermediary. Invest in people you trust. Invest in people who are not a CEO of a company listed on the stock exchange, because they will do fine. But if you give these SMEs a little room to maneuver instead of suffocating them, you're talking an excess return of 10, 15% over the next 15 to 20 years. So in other words, I was not making a joke when I started this presentation by saying I am the most optimistic ever. But it entitles you to be more involved. You need to take responsibility. And for the young people in here, in the room, I'm very disappointed on you. You need to be complaining, you need to be demanding, you need to be more politically involved. We have never been more apolitical in our life. We've never been less committed to helping each other out. It's all about this virtual reality. And I know you're going to talk about Bitcoins later this afternoon, but think about it. I mean, how can we replace fiat money with money on the internet? If that's your aspiration, I shall not stop you. But I tell you, I believe in people investing in your eyes and in what I see, not in PowerPoint, not in something I can take off the internet. And that is my ultimate investment advice for you for the next 3 months and next 12 months. Be very critical of the information you receive from any macro policy guy. So let me close by saying that every Christmas I pray to Santa Claus. I sent him a wish list. And let me just state right away that Santa Claus lives in Greenland. I'm Danish, he's from Greenland. He's not from Lapland, he's from Greenland. So make no mistakes, if you haven't had what you wanted on your Christmas list, it's because you sent it the wrong place. Go to the guy in Greenland. But every year I send a wish to Santa Claus, and it goes like this. I said, "Dear Santa Claus, I will promise to be a nice boy for the next 12 months if you give me one list and one wish only. I want you to take all of the politicians of the world. I want to take all of the central bankers, all of the stupid chief economists, all of the strategists of the world. Anyone who actually think they know anything about the world, I want you to take them together. Ask Australia if you can borrow a plot of land, put a lot of swimming pools, wine and dinners in there, and close them up for 5 years. They should not be able to communicate with anybody anywhere in the world except themselves. They can all go around arguing who's the best, who has the biggest, who has the smallest, who is the best, whatever. That's fine by me, but keep them out of business. And I promise you, Santa Claus, we will have 5% growth in Europe, 10% growth in the US, and we will have no demographic problems. We will have no race against the machine. We will not need bitcoins because we invest in each other." That is my speech. Thank you.
Ja by som si teda podľa plánu dovolil rovno otvoriť diskusiu s pánom Jakobsenom kvôli tomu, že za chvíľku odchádza, čiže sú tu nejaké otázky na hlavného stratéga Saxo Bank. Nech sa páči. Myslím, že tá prezentácia bola veľmi fajn, čiže nech sa páči.
I scared everybody away from asking questions.
What's your guess?
Počkajte prosím vás na mikrofón.
Sorry for that. What's your guess? Which country would be the first one who actually supports or will support SMEs?
As I said, I try to advise a lot of politicians, so I haven't seen much traction. But actually, let me put it differently. I can tell you, very few politicians has ever asked to be on my email list for my research. But one country's finance minister has asked to be on it, Singapore's. And as much as you may have skepticism about the Asian democracy of Singapore. It is one country who astutely understands that small business is everything. Of course, it's easier to be Singapore and Slovakia and Denmark than it is to be China, where you have to get 1.2 billion people in line. But I think Singapore is an excellent example. What is also interesting, historically, there is one country who had an SME plan, but deviated from Australia. In the 1980s, Australia was all about SMEs. But if you go to Australia today, it's like going to the UK before Margaret Thatcher came to power in 1979. Again, I think it is the mean reversion political spectrum goes from left to right, as you also see in this country. But I think, and I'm glad the first question was SME. I'm not a Austrian, I'm not a Keynesian, I'm a practitioner, and I can tell you the only thing that works at the end of the day is where the mad ads are, and that is there. And if Nestle wants to be productive, innovative, what do? Do they do it themselves, or do they buy a small company? Of course they buy a small company. When Yahoo wants an additional app, an additional thing, they buy a shop of 3, 4, 5 people. That's how you grow. And let me just, long speech for this, but let me say, think about Microsoft. When we are trained as economists, when we are trained as strategists, we look at what is called the demand of society. So we decide that Slovakia should have 3% growth. And then we expect the whole economy just to fit in, and that will work. It should be the other way around, right? Because when Microsoft sat in a garage and said, we want to make this Windows system unique, do you think they went into the demand function of the economy and said, we want to be right there? No, what they did was say, we have a supply, we have a new product that will create its own demand. In economics, this is called Say's law. But if you go around to the EU Commission, I don't think a lot of people understand what the Say's law is about. And with all respect to the Slovakian politician, I don't even think they can spell Say's here.
Ďakujem. Ďalšia otázka. To sa odváži. Poďme sa spýtať aj na zlato.
Actually, I have a question.
Yes.
You said we put all those strategies and analysts and everybody and politicians and central bankers to Australia, and we locked them for 5 years, and we come back and we're gonna have 5% growth in Europe and 10% in the US. Why 5% in Europe and 10% in the US if we sent all of them there?
That's a good question. It is from, let's take Germany right now. If you look at being in business, you have a number of costs. Some of them are bureaucratic, some of them are practical ones. I think the long-term driver of competitiveness is very often energy. So right now, Germany has the most expensive energy policy anywhere in the world. This year alone, energy costs from the consumer in Germany will go up by 20%. The German natural gas is the most expensive in the world. German electricity is by people in Germany seen as a luxury good. At the same time, the US right now have the lowest electricity price due to natural gas being forced down by shale gas investments. So you can today produce aluminium, which has 25% electricity consumption, cheaper in the US than you can produce in China with subsidies. So I think some of the long-term drivers of the growth potential of an economy is the cost base, its competitive advantages, demographics, where clearly Germany and Europe is in a bad position relative to the US. US is the only developed market where there are still more people in the age of 15 to 65 entering the workspace than leaving the workspace. So it's more to do with the structural issue. But having said that, I agree, which I think is the incorrect part of your question. I think for the next 10 years, US will lead the growth engine, followed by not Asia, not emerging markets, but Europe. I think by dumb luck, the new competitive model we have is not about being the cheapest, but by being the most productive, the most innovative, and the one that had the least obstacles to doing businesses. And I think we get there before others. But right now, I think there's a 1 to 2 potential growth ratio between the two, unless something improves on it. But it's more to do with legacy demographics and legacy energy costs of what we're doing. Does that make sense? I can see the interpreter is so tired, he's yawning. Is that the impression I'm giving you guys?
Ďalšia otázočka. Ešte máme určite čas chvíľu.
Keď nikto, tak ja trošku na povolenie možno.
Chvíľu.
Sorry about that. My Slovakian is not very strong.
Hovorím, že trošku na povolenie, možno keď nikto nemá odvahu, tak ja nie som ekonóm, ale skôr ekológ a som za takú sieť ekologických organizácií Ekofórum v monitorovacom výbore pre operačný program Bratislavský kraj, ktorý rozdeľuje európske financie na ďalšie obdobie. Samozrejme, že tam máme menšinu, čiže rozhoduje štátny aparát, ktorý v celom tom monitorovacom výbore má väčšinu, takže ja väčšinou som tam osamela, keď niečo poviem. Ale Európska únia sa snaží podporovať, alebo teda v tom ďalšom kroku si uvedomila podporovanie malých a stredných podnikov, čiže v tej časti, ktorá sa bude vlastne teraz rozdeľovať z európskych zdrojov, má byť podpora financií teda malých a stredných podnikov. Žiaľ, keďže som v tomto operačnom programe, takže vidím trošku do kuchyne a je mi jasné, že tie podmienky na Slovensku sa nastavujú pre istú malú skupinu malých a stredných podnikov. Žiaľ, veľmi je to milúto, pretože tá filozofia je správna, ale ja ako jedinec naozaj nedokážem preklenúť tento problém. Je to vecou akési občianskej odvahy ľudí, aby vstupovali do komunálnej politiky a na Slovensku táto odvaha nie je, pretože politika bola tak... Je to taký marazmus, že ľudia nechcú, ani mladí ľudia nechcú mať nič spoločné s politikou. Toto je veľmi vážny problém a ja som to preklenula tým, že som vstúpila do komunálnej politiky.
To bol len komentár, nie otázka.
It's a great question, and you pointed to something which is very close to my mind, which I think we share, that the disillusion with lack of commitment from young people and the barrier to entry seems too high. In terms of what the EU does for SMEs, they have just praised themselves upon using 25% of the budget for SMEs. For my matter, they could spend zero, it doesn't matter, because you have to remember that the SME is specific to Slovakia. So although you can access some of these funds, of course, with the restructuring for Eastern Slovakia can get emergency funding and vice versa. This doesn't matter in the big picture. What matters is what Slovakia does in the tradition of this country within the political mandate of creating what you can, including yourself working in these committees. So, the solution for SMEs is not a pan-European one-size-fits-all. It is a Slovakian decision to do what's right, number one. Number two, in terms of the almost insurmountable task of getting people involved, I will go back to how I see the world always, is that you will get more support next year when the growth is zero. Because when things are really, really tight, when things are really, really bad, it's the only way you get people who, voluntarily agrees to do anything. Because we as individuals only take good decisions when we're forced to take these decisions. We don't take this proactively. You are one of the few people I ever met who proactively decided to do something about it. But you are a rare kind, and way too rare kind, in a world where we want to talk about bitcoins and what stocks to buy relatively to the only priority there should be in any society to get everyone to benefit from the social model, and number two, to make jobs. I mean, when politicians talk about growth, they talk about jobs as a second derivative. Let's be clear here. Jobs comes first, then you can spend the money afterwards. So, we are up against something very hard, both of us, me as an advisor, you as a practitioner, but I hope both of us keep the head high and continue to go on, because times are coming to us now, where before you were fighting, an uphill struggle. I think you're going to have a lot of tailwind from the mere fact that societies cannot extend and pretend, as I call it. Extend is like you buy time, pretend is that you're credible. It's neither credible or you do not have the time. So like in this country, everybody tells me that nothing will happen because the Prime Minister wants to be president. I mean, why do you accept that someone is stalling your economy for 12 months because he wants to be president? Make him president tomorrow and get on with it. Who cares who's president? What matters is what is done at grassroots with you.
Ďakujem. Posledná otázka pre pána Jakobsena.
I think I may have to run for election in Slovakia soon.
Chtěl bych se zeptat, pokud je
Miloš,
to...
sekundičku.
Beg your pardon. Forgetting I don't speak Slovak.
Pokud tím cílem ta podpora toho středních a menších podniků je, vidíte nějakou šanci se k ní dostat, aniž by došlo k tomu kolapsu, aniž bychom byli přinuceni? A pokud, čemu dáváte větší šanci, jestli myslíme projít tím kolapsem, nebo jestli je šance to nějakým způsobem docílit jinak? A jakou se hraje v obou alternativách zlatou roli, jestli se vyplatí do něj investovat, v které variantě a co byste k tomuto mohl říct, prosím?
Gold, right? Is it gold investment? So first of all, I don't think anything changes without a crisis. So the first part of your question is very easy. Unfortunately, I think we need to fail to improve. Trial and error is a known concept for a reason. And I think I know I sound very political. I don't really care who runs Slovakia, but if you have a beautiful thing like a flat tax system, why would you want to change it? Why do you want to make things more difficult and more complicated? So, Slovakia is a great example of a country who, in my opinion, have all the possibilities of doing what's right. A country which has been hugely successful, who have, a great engineering, tooling skills, been able to attract a lot of people. But at the same time, you don't have a road to eastern Slovakia. How does that make sense? So if you, as a small country of 5 million people, can't figure it out, what's the chances that Germany or Russia can figure it out? So I think by reverse engineering the process, it almost becomes clear that we need to fail to... So we need zero growth or recession or 20% unemployment, not because I want it, but because I want the change to come with that. But again, I think if Slovakia experienced, negative growth and high unemployment rate, I think that will be the turning point you will look back on. 2014 will be the low point. So don't get depressed, don't lose faith, because you have the ability to navigate. Then gold. The one question I get in 30 different countries around the world is what I think about gold. I can talk about politics, I can talk about Bitcoin, whatever, but gold is always questions. So thank you for living up to it. My record is still 30 for 30 in terms of gold. Gold is interesting because as a concept, it's something you dig out of the ground and then you put it into the ground, right? And on one hand, I, as an investor, always have something in gold, I have to admit. I always have 5%. Right now I have a lot of gold, and I come back to that in a second. But think about it, how pessimistic it is to believe in gold. It is the equivalent on going onto the internet and buying a ticket for Noah's Ark. Because the only way you're really going to make money is if something fails or the world is going under and you're the only person left. But what is the point of being left or going on Noah's Ark? Because you're just going to be sitting in your basement polishing your gold bar, being non-productive. So on one hand, I think gold has to be seen as going away from something, being scared, fiat money, and there's a very valid reason for that. I mean, at least you cannot, devalue gold. Then there is the whole exercise, there's less gold in the ground than there is, in 5 football pitches, wherever. Who cares? But having said that, what drives, and here's the answer you want, what drives gold is real rates. The problem with gold, and the reason why gold has been coming down, is that real rates is going down. So what's happening is 2 bad things for gold. Interest rate, number 1, went up, which is good, but inflation went down more. So as long as you have negative inflation, like in Japan, the real rates goes down. So what is happening now, in my opinion, as I stated before, is that we have a repricing of easy money is coming back. So real rates will go up. But I think if you see 15.25, 15.75 over the next 6 months, you would, as a trader, need to reduce your exposure, because I think gold belongs in 1,000, 1,200. but only because I think the 2015-16 will be good. So I mean, I'm long gold, but I hope it goes down for this reason and this reason only. If gold goes down, it's because the world is in a better place. So, you know, I cannot be long gold as an optimist, as someone who wants positive change. But right now, I'm very long gold calls in my portfolio, which you can track online anyway, so you know you can see that on tradingfloor.com. But but right now I'm long because real interest rates is going up. So I'm not buying because I'm emotionally attached. I'm not buying it because I'm afraid of the world going under. I'm buying it because real interest rate is going up.